What do you wish you knew as a first-time conference presenter? Who wants to go first?
Brian's like, I have so many facts.
No, I think what helped for me was and I say this not just because Bianca's on here, but
La,
the
la,
learning
la, la, la.
the Learning Guild did a really nice job of just kind of setting expectations. So I knew, when I got the email saying you've been accepted, pretty quickly after that, within a week or two, I had a link that said, here's all the information you need to know. It's in the Speaker Center. Down to when do you have to have everything sent to the Learning Guild, when your session was going to be, what you needed to have for your session. Keep in mind that this was also when we were going to be in person. So it was, what equipment do you need to bring? I didn't know that I needed to bring my laptop. Honestly, I mean, that sounds kind of silly to say that, but I was planning to use their equipment when I got there, and then I would email my presentation, and it would be downloaded to the computer or down to a network drive or something like that. So it helped a lot to know that there was a lot of, bring your own device, kind of content. I think that was the biggest thing, is you need to be prepared for what you need to bring, what you need to provide, when you need to provide it. Are you going to have any handouts? Are you going to have things for demonstrations? You will want to be as prepared as you possibly can. And the Learning Guild specifically did a really nice job of that with DevLearn, but depending on who's facilitating that experience, those are the kinds of questions you'll want to ask, because I would expect every host, every session would be facilitated differently.
Bianca, when was your first time presenting?
Learning Solutions 2013.
Okay, so anything that you recall that you would have liked to know? That's a while ago. So
I will say, connected to Brian's comment, I've talked at a lot of different organizations, events. They're all in our field pretty darn good about letting you know, here's what you're going to need to give them at what time. That's pretty common. So you can feel like if you get accepted, you're going to get that information. You probably don't need to worry about that. The bringing your laptop and presenting from it is probably most common in our industry. And there's a plus to that, because have you ever done that thing where you put your PowerPoint deck on someone else's computer and it gets all janky and weird? I hate that. It happens.
That's the worst.
If you're on your computer, you at least know how it's going to play. Here's a couple of little things. So the whole tech thing, a lot of the places I've spoken have someone who can help you with the tech stuff if something goes weird. They're not going to just shove you in a room and make you figure it out yourself. You'll have help at some level. So usually organizations will have you show up a certain amount of time before your presentation. That's so that you can hook everything up and make sure it works. And then if it doesn't work, you have time to get someone to come and help you. Be early for that, because there'll always be the time where you have zero time for setup, that something goes weird. That has happened to me, and it was a horrifying experience. It all worked out, but it worked out because I had a friend in the audience who loaned me his computer. Thank you, JD Dillon. So something I wish I had known. First, I think I said this in the other chat we had. The L&D audiences, they tend to be really friendly. They're nice. They want you to succeed, so you don't have to worry that you're going to be heckled off the stage. That's not how our events go. They're nice people. And second, a lot of the organizations that you speak for, if you have questions, just ask. Like, they're all just nice people who want to help you succeed, and they want your session to be good so that you have a good time, so that the audience has a good time. So don't feel like you're being a bother if you ask questions. You're not being a bother at all.
I'll give you another technical thing to watch out for, and this is something I figured out pretty quickly because I was very attuned to it when we got the comments, or we got the directions from the Learning Guild. Make sure you have the right connections for your laptop to plug into the projector. And I'll give you an example. My laptop that I use for work is USB, has the normal USB, and then it has the USB-C, which is the little narrow one, and that's how I plug everything in. I don't have an HDMI port. I don't have a VGA port. I don't have any of those unique things. So I was actually going to have to go to our IT department or go buy my own dongle extension to go into my laptop to make sure that it plugged in correctly. That's something I never would have thought about. I just would have made the assumption, hey, it's going to be good and it'll work fine. But I would have had to, I would have gotten to Las Vegas and I would have been in a lot of trouble because, Walgreens doesn't carry that across the street from the Mirage.
Brian,
So
you would have messaged me and I would have gotten you hooked up. You'd be
I
fine.
know I probably would have, actually, I probably wouldn't have messaged you. I probably would have been, running through the Mirage screaming like a crazy person going,
Well, then that would make
"Where's
it easy to
Bianca?"
find you.
So
Oh my God.
Yeah.
yeah.
The dongle is a big thing. I think people don't think about. It's such a challenge with more modern computers where they're just taking out as many ports as humanly possible. If you find you're speaking a lot of the times, they make multi-port dongles that'll hook up into HDMI and VGA and whatever. So you just have a single dongle that fits with everything. I have one of those. It works great. I think I paid under $30 Canadian, which is what, 5 cents American right now?
Maybe. It's possible.
Any other sort of technologies, gadgets that you like to bring with you when you're presenting, like a clicker or anything else?
I did not use a remote, and I probably would have had I been in person. I haven't facilitated in my current role hardly at all, and so I don't carry a remote. But I've had one in the past, and it's worked great. I will tell you something technologically that is not an extension from the computer, but it's something I did this year. And I probably got more compliments on this than I did my actual session. And it was something that Kara North did in 2019 when she did her session. I did live closed captioning. And, from an accessibility standpoint, it's a great tool. I mean, it's not flawless, but it does work really well. And so if you do something like that, you'll have to have a microphone, like a lapel mic or something that you can either connect to your laptop or you could connect wirelessly somehow. But then that will actually, and I built my presentation in Google Slides because it's very, very convenient to build the live closed captioning. And so that's something that if you wanted to consider doing that, it's not very common. I've seen a very, very small handful of sessions, but I did it just on recommendation from a couple of people. And I had several people who in the comments said the closed captioning is awesome. I had somebody who watched the recording and it said, "Hey, Brian, I don't know if you'll ever see this, but thank you for the live closed captioning. I have some hearing challenges and this made it so much easier." I think you're going to see a lot more speakers move to something like that where there's accessibility, and it's not really that much more difficult to do. So something like that where you might need a microphone, but just have not a microphone, excuse me, like a lapel mic or something like that. That makes it easier for the closed captioning to work. That's just an idea that you might use. Otherwise, a clicker would be great. Some people bring handouts, and that's great too. It's not technology, but it's another tool that you could provide. That was my plan, just to give out handouts, and then people could take notes on those with what I was trying to communicate. And that didn't come across very well when I did my session, just because everybody was online. So.
Yeah, I tend to do resource pages for the same reason that Brian talked about doing handouts. It's very hard to give everyone everything they need in the session. That's a great place to just kind of put what you want to give people, and just instead of saying go here and go here, go here, just like, here's a short link, go there. Yeah. I actually put my full presentations and my presentation notes on that resource page. People love that. If you're able to do that and comfortable doing that, people are always really happy to have that information. I always tell people that's a good one. I tell people at the beginning of my session that I do that so that they aren't like rapidly taking notes. If they would rather just kick back and relax and then, just reread my session notes later, so if you're going to give them resources, let them know ahead of time. That's nice.
But if you're using a PowerPoint or using Google Slides, put your notes in there as well, because I can tell you, I've gone back and looked at presentations where there's no notes and I don't remember the context of some of the bullet points. And obviously you don't want a ton of bullet points on your slides, which
Please
is
don't do
great.
that.
Yes, please don't do that. Which is great, but then in hindsight, then when you go back and look at it later on and you don't have those notes in there, the learner just goes, I remember that, but I don't remember the context of it. So that's beneficial to go ahead and include those notes in your presentation. I think I had my entire script in my presentation when I published it.
I do that too. The notes section
Yeah, but
in PowerPoint.
Don't tell them it's a script.
But no, and this is, I think, sure, we're going to get into this with the practicing and preparing. We've all got our different processes for coming up with our talk. You don't have to memorize a script. I don't think of doing a TED talk, that's ever the expectation, but having your notes of here's the gist of what I'm planning to say, knowing that you're going to reword it in your own way, adjust it to whatever the audience seems to be most keen on. It's great to have. And then, like Brian said, if someone goes back to your deck later on, or if you go back to your deck years later when you've kind of forgotten half of what you said, you're like, oh yeah. You can also print your notes section to a PDF and turn that into a handout too. And then I'll have your slide at the top and the note section at the bottom. It's pretty cool.
Are there any fails that you care to share? Like, what and how and what have you learned from each time you've presented? Now, Brian, I don't know if you can really answer this because you're one and done, right? Like you're never doing this again, right?
Never at all.
Yeah, 100% success.
That's right.
Like you said last time.
Go out ahead. If it's okay, I'm going to start because it kind of connects to the things we've already been talking about. So I was on a trip. I was out of town. I was in San Diego. So I'm from Detroit. So I was literally on the other side of the country. I flew back from San Diego. I literally drove from the airport to an ATD event to present. I do not recommend this.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Okay. But this is what I did. And so I get there with my Mac and I had bought this fancy dongle, right? And in fact, I had bought it for DevLearn and I had asked Bianca, hey, Bianca, what should I do? And Bianca's like, buy it because we might not have it. She's like, we might have it, but we might not have it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I get there and I hook up the dongle. Doesn't fit my laptop.
No.
Google said it would.
No.
I never tried it. I hauled it all the way to San Diego with me and all the way back, and it didn't fit. So I had to Jimmy rig some stuff. I don't really remember what happened because I was kind of blacked out at the time, just like trying to make it work because I'm my own IT guy. So the moral of the story is check your tech, even the dongles, even the extensions, just double check that it works with your equipment. I mean, you get there and it doesn't work with theirs. That's something you have to work out with them, but just make sure it works with your equipment before you do that. So anybody else have any other fails that you are willing to share?
I have a tech one that led into a session, not full on fail, but a session not landing the way I wanted it to. So as I mentioned earlier, I had an instance where my tech kind of imploded on me. To this day, I have no idea why my computer didn't want to play with the projector. It is unexplainable. That will happen. So I'm someone who has a backup plan. So I had my presentation hosted online. I was able to download it to someone else's computer, got it up. What I had counted on is because there was so little time in between sessions, I had at that point started eating into my session time. What I normally do to calm myself down before a session is I just start casually talking to everyone in the audience. And it gives me a sense of where they're at, why they're at the session. It's really, really helpful for some people for getting a sense of the audience. But I didn't have time to do that. So I didn't have my calming ritual in place. I'd never thought of a backup for the thing that helps me feel calm before the session. So, to this day, I kind of wish I had just not jumped right into my presentation and just gone through my little ritual anyway of just talking to people. I mean, it could have made it sound more like part of the presentation. But have backup plans for not just the tech. Have backup plans for what you need to take care of yourself going into the session.
Yep.
Agreed. I need that too. It's funny. The very first time I spoke was at Realities. 360 2019. And gosh, that feels like a really long time ago. It really wasn't that long ago.
16,000 years ago.
That's what it feels like. But like I get there and like my coworker is there and my boss is there and my boss's boss is there, not to mention all the people that are there to see the session and all of that. And my coworker is going to run my slides for me, right? Great. So I get up there and I get ready and I'm like going around, because I'm the type of facilitator. It's always like buzzing around, setting things up. And I walk up to the thing and his name is Vince. And I'm like, "What's up, Vince?" And he goes, "You need to calm down." Like, just, that's all he said. And I was like, okay. And in my head, I didn't think I was all rezzed up, but he knew that I was like, and he wasn't wrong. About 8 minutes in, I was fine. But like, I start out like, blah, 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 and it's crazy.
Prepare for everything. And I don't say that in a bad way, because that can actually be a very good thing. And I think that's kind of what Betty was hinting at. So when I was getting ready for this, I thought if I'm in person and I have 25 people there, I'll be ecstatic. And then when we went virtual, I said, if I have 100 people there, I'll be thrilled. It'll be amazing. And I say this just from a learning experience, because it rattled me a lot, actually. But halfway through my session, I looked over and I saw that I had over 300 people on my session, and it scared me. Like, it actually legitimately terrified me, because I thought there are a lot of people in here and I could screw up really bad, really fast. And then, it's going to go real bad. It wasn't. It was great. It was amazing. I loved it. But you have to prepare yourself not just for the things that could happen that wouldn't be that great, but the things that could happen that would be amazing that you're not expecting. Right. And that sounds kind of silly to say that, but really there's some really amazing things that can happen when you're doing this. And if you're not mentally prepared for how cool this is going to be, it might catch you off guard. I mean, that sounds weird to say that, but it's true.
Something's always going to go weird. Like, you can do all this prep, but just be emotionally prepared that something's probably going to go weird. And you know what? You're going to figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
This.
It's going to
You'll
be all
have
right.
people there who have your back.
Yep.
Just roll with the punches. Try and solve it with as little fanfare as possible. I've seen some presenters kind of go down a pipeline of something goes weird, and then they apologize for it for the rest of the session. It's like, I think we would have forgotten it happened.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Didn't mention. Yeah. And it's because they feel really bad. And I get that. But the vast majority of your audience, once the thing has happened, they're emotionally done with it. They're ready to keep going.
Yeah. Just shake it off, because every time you apologize, they're like, they have to remember what you're apologizing for, because they've done moved past it. Absolutely.
I say this as a Canadian, where apologizing is reflex.
You
You're the one sorry, and then you move along.